Prof. Scotty, Professor Kirtland. Hi, how you doing? Happy New Year, Profy. In this tape, I am not going to cite any of the works of Dusty Rhodes, any of his literary masterpieces. But what I am going to do is put forth something that the elders of the Maranatha Bible Society have swept under the rug regarding the life and times, particularly the very last days of its founder, Richard E. Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes but he encouraged everybody to have a life's verse. And Dusty Rhodes' life's verse was Galatians 2:20. And he would, everything he signed, he would sign his name and then Galatians 2:20 as his life's verse. There is another verse to which Richard E. Rhodes is the poster child of. Richard E. Rhodes is the poster child of this verse. Sonja. Now let me do some preliminaries first. I have already made a tape, one tape, regarding Dusty Rhodes' divorce. And I will put a link to that tape in the description box. But let me rehash some of the details, because this is a framework of the poster child of this verse. Dusty Rhodes' first wife dies. It was going to be a very abbreviated version. He remarries. Now keep in mind, this is Dusty Richard E. Doctrine Rhodes. Richard E. Doctrine Rhodes remarries. He remarries a divorced woman. Of course, Paul does give some specific instructions about marriage. Doctrine. But the next point in this, there is no doctrine about. So Ken Brandt, you can jump all over me. And what it was his second wife leaves him. Why does his second wife leave him? He discloses in one of his tapes, he's talking about his second wife leaving him, the difference in their ages. He cites his birth year, he cites her birth year. I do some, and this is on one of his tapes, I do some quick math in my head. 23 years. Of course, Scotty, you teach pharmacology, do you? Professor Kirtland, this particular incident was prior to the advent of Viagra. All right, that's the rehash. I was going to interject something else. about how I always sarcastically talk about edification, and how I'm intending this to edify you. And let me cite the reason for that. My very first written condemnation, if you want to call it that, which in actuality it was a short paper I entitled Clarification. And I will put the link to that in the description box. Clarification of the basic doctrines of the Maranatha Bible Society. And I mailed this doctrine, not email. I mailed this doctrine via postal mail to every member of the Maranatha Bible Society that I had at that time. Now, Professor Kirtland, this is prior to your introduction to the Maranatha Bible Society. I got a letter from Ken Brandt, and one of the things he said in his letter is it didn't edify him. So, everything that I have produced hereafter, I attempt to insert sarcastically or not to Ken Brandt. Hey Kenny, does this edify you? All right, now, Sonja and Dusty Rhodes being the poster child for this verse. Scott, there are some details about what I'm about to relate that I do not know, but you are in a position to find out. And how you can find out is go have a lovey-dovey consultation with your brother, Dale Farce Kohler. All right, now, for everybody else watching this tape, and why I am holding this up. Sonja. Sonja was Dusty Rhodes' Girl Friday. And they cohabited. Now, some of the nitty-gritty events leading up to the decease of Richard E. Rhodes. Time goes on, and Richard E. Rhodes falls deathly ill. Ken Brandt rushes down to Daphne, Alabama. Dusty Rhodes recovers, but a diagnosis of the most likely cause of him falling deathly ill is an overdose of his prescription medications. Let me say that again. The diagnosis of the illness of Dusty Rhodes was an overdose of his prescription medications. Via Detective 101, I search out Miss Sonja, and I communicate with her. And she denied up, down, and sideways that she had anything to do with what I've just related. Say that again. I called up Miss Sonja, And she denied up, down, and sideways that she had anything to do with what I have just related. All right. Now, Ken Brandt rushes down to Daphne, Alabama. Dusty Rhodes returns to his abode, and Miss Sonja is ejected. Miss Sonja is evicted. Now, Scotty, here's what I don't know. Via Detective 101, I was able to determine a telephone contact from Miss Sonja, and it was Daphne, Alabama. Thereafter, that particular telephone contact was no longer valid. But what was valid, what I did discover, is an additional reference to Miss Sonja, and the location was Litchfield, Michigan. I know absolutely nothing about the details of what happened, but I know full well that Dale Kohler does, and I know full well that Ken Brandt does. So, Professor Kirtland, maybe you ought to find out what happened. Find out what happened and let me know.